Okay, so this is, by the way, the portal where you help yourself to advertise on Facebook. So Facebook has 6 million something clients. Most of them put their program with Facebook together here, and you see it helps them choose the audience. Core audience, mainly based on age and location. Find your own customers on Facebook. And here is lookalike audience. Use your customer information to find people similar to them on Facebook. So that's where Facebook uses all of its data on us to help advertisers reach people they want to reach. So privacy. The U.S. does not really have a firm privacy policy. I think it's fair to say, on the whole, that the United States tends to be more friendly to businesses than we do to customers, consumers. It's different in Europe. This is European privacy policy. I'm going to try to get to the website here if I can. I may have to do this. Well, maybe not. Let's see. Hang on here, folks. I do want to show you the privacy policy for the European Union. Hopefully this will open. Okay. And you see this. Written in 2016. Right, folks. I want you to read this. How much control do you have over how companies collect and use your information? Okay. Here's what they do in Europe. That one bad night, pulling a harmless prank led to your arrest and misdemeanor charges, or you're posing with a bottle of booze or something like that when you shouldn't have been. Europe, they have the so-called right to be forgotten. You can ask search engines to remove links to the news article in Europe. There's no way in the U.S. to get companies to delete or remove negative content. Your bank has been hacked. Your card has been stolen by hackers. In Europe, any company must notify national regulators within 3 days of discovering a breach or face fines for not sufficiently protecting your data. In the U.S., it's as soon as possible. And what we see is, in many cases, companies delaying for quite some time announcing a breach of security. They don't want to hurt their stock price, for example. All those clicks add up. What information do the companies have on us? In Europe, you can ask the company to send you the details about what data it has on you and what the information is used for. They have to hand it over within a month. In the U.S., there's no federal law or standard. In medical situations, patients can get records. Twitter allows customers to download their archive. My child was falling for video games. They cannot in Europe collect data on anyone under 16. In the U.S., they're not supposed to get data for anyone under 13, but they do. So there are some examples of the differences in privacy policy between Europe and the U.S. We don't have a privacy policy in the U.S. to speak of. Some states have them, but the country as a whole does not. Databases and storage. Well, a database, collection of information that's organized so it can be easily accessed, managed, and updated. So marketing databases, customer databases are what we're mostly talking about. So that's what Facebook has on you. That's what Twitter has. That's what Amazon has. But let's just talk a little bit about the physicality of the database. Let's talk about Facebook again. How many photos uploaded every day on Facebook? How much data does Amazon Prime store? Well, here's Facebook. 2.5 billion pieces of content and 500 terabytes of data every day. It's pulling in 2.7 billion likes and 300 million photos per day. I mean, this is staggering. I mean, if I told you what a terabyte was or a petabyte, it's just hard to even comprehend how much it is in our poor brains. Okay. So, Facebook, like all other websites, stores data in data storage warehouses. Now, we talk about, these are, by the way, Amazon's regional data centers. Amazon stores data for lots of companies. The division of Amazon that does this is called AWS, Amazon Web Services. They call it being stored in the cloud, but the cloud is really a bunch of data warehouses that look like this on the outside. And look, oh, and there's, by the way, just a minor point here. These data warehouses are vulnerable. This is just a protester, Greenpeace flying a blimp, taking a picture over a data warehouse. NS National Security Agency illegal spying below, because they were storing data in a warehouse, and these guys knew where it was. But you know, governments that don't like the United States could be messing around with their data storage. You know, they're pretty vulnerable if you think about it. That's what they look like inside. And because those data are there are always ways into electronic data. It's not like a bank vault, because the data are used, so they come out. And if data can come out, then other things can go in. And so data are hacked. Here's a corporate hack, probably done by an entity in Russia. You may remember the Colonial Oil Pipeline, which controlled, I think, most of the gasoline on the East Coast, was shut down due to a ransomware attack, where hackers refused to let Colonial Pipeline have access to their data. They blocked it. And here's another one. 533 million Facebook users' phone numbers and personal data have been leaked online. You wonder why we get Robo Calls. Now, when those numbers and things are, when numbers like that are stolen, they're sold on the dark web. The dark web. Overload Lab. So there's a stampede of selling ransomware. Only $39 for a full lifetime license. So, all right. So we've talked about these. And now we have bots, clickbait, fraud, and robocalls, and broadband access to talk about. We haven't talked about those yet, so those should not be X'd out. Whoops, sorry folks. Let's fix this. All right, that's how far we are. And I'm going to continue for a few more minutes. Okay, so bots, clickbait, fraud, and robocalls. Half the traffic online is bots. Okay, it's not real human beings. It's phony, baloney clicks. And there's such a thing as clickbait also, to get real people to click things that they maybe wouldn't. Why? Because when images and pages are downloaded on the internet, the hosting website gets credit for an advertising impression and can get paid. Clickbots, clickbait, and other things have gotten advertisers, very smart ones like Procter & Gamble, to move money out of digital back to TV. Okay, so that's an issue for websites. I now want to talk about Robo Calls. Telemarketing, like telephone and telegram and telegraph and television, means marketing from afar. So rather than me walking around and knocking on your door and seeing you face to face, I can call you. 4 basic kinds of telemarketing. Inbound means the customer is calling the company. That's usually non-controversial. It's for customer service. Outbound is where the company calls the customer. And when companies call businesses, it's not too controversial. It's called cold calling. It's called sales. When companies call individuals, that can be controversial. Okay, those are those calls we don't like getting. And they can be done by robots using a computerized auto dialer to deliver a pre-recorded message. Political campaigns, customer research is allowed to do robocalls, but businesses generally are not. And another little form of sneakiness that you may be familiar with is all the times when you've got your cell phone and there's a call and it looks like it is coming from your area code. It looks like, but it isn't. It's neighbor spoofing. And this is done by computers. And the phone carriers like Verizon, etc., are getting better at detecting them. Okay, I'm going to stop. No, let me keep going. I'm almost done. The last issue is broadband coverage. Way back in the beginning of the internet, people were getting onto the internet over regular phone lines, and it was ridiculous. It was downloading a movie. I mean, could not happen. Downloading a 10-second video would take 20 minutes. It was crazy, but the bandwidth has been increased and increased and increased. This is a major factor in where the internet is today, and it's called broadband. And it's sending out internet over fiber optic cables, same as your cable TV and in many cases your home telephone. And the other issue in terms of access to the full internet is how many people have smartphones. This is broadband map. The dark areas is where people have good broadband access, and the light areas they don't. According to the FCC, and by the way, has an impact during COVID of kids taking remote learning, doing remote learning who did not have access to broadband. And you can see that less affluent families, African American families, in some cases in urban areas, do not always have access to broadband at home. And this was a problem and is a problem. This is evidently going to be addressed if some of these spending bills are approved by the federal government. Smartphone penetration 73%. But again, and the broadband issue will be fixed. Smartphone is getting there, not there all the way. By the way, the people who don't have smartphones tend to be in rural areas and tend to be older, so they're a different profile than the ones who don't have broadband access. The future. All these things are going on. Right. This is kind of what's going on right now. We've covered a pretty good amount of this today. And maybe you'll write down what you think the future is too. think about it yourself and write down 3 or 4 things. This is what's due for next week. Geez, why did I not put the chat? It's chapter 13. You're going to work on your term paper. There's no discussion because you're going to work on your term paper. And that's what's due for next week. And with that, we are done.